And welcome to my presentation. Today, I'm going to talk about companies and diversity, if diversity has an effect on their success. But before I start with my presentation, I would like to leave a few words to the initial abstract that I have handed in, because the topic differs from the presentation of today. Initially, I was planning to do an analysis regarding the changed preferences of bank customers. But during the process, it was a bit difficult to get a final approval from the bank for interviewing the bank customers. So I'm still in the process, and that's why I'm talking today about a slightly different topic. So let's have a look at the agenda. I will start with a small storyboard, an introduction, move on to the definition, talk about the challenges that companies are facing today, show some research data and findings, and finally give a conclusion. All right, I'm not alone, as you can hear. I'm home with 2 dogs, so sorry for the noise. All right, we got 2 groups having the same problem. They have to build the billy shelf of IKEA. And the first group consists of 5 homogeneous people, and the other group consists of 5 heterogeneous people. The first group presents then one idea how to solve this task, and the second group presents 5 different ideas how to build the billy shelf. So I will pick up later on to the story. The definition regarding diversity, according to Carson et al., defined diversity as any attribute that humans are likely to tell themselves that another person is different from them. The view of diversity activities has changed in the past years because the initial idea of diversity served primarily to avoid discrimination and ensure equal opportunities. So nowadays, many companies focus on the economic benefits of diversity. So why is it that many companies focus on this topic? Because companies have different challenges. As we see, we got the labor market, the decline of applicants, we got the millennials, the transformation of the term diversity, and we got rising figures of migrants, the change of gender role, more women entering the workforce, and the inclusion of disabled people. So let's go with the demographic developments. Scientists and politicians have been discussing these influences for the labor market. Younger people are becoming fewer, older people are becoming more. Germany had around 83.25 million people living in 2020, of whom are around 18 million 65 years old or even older. So this development reflects the change in demographic progress and the associated decline in the number of applicants. Companies are complaining about shortages of skilled workers, which are caused, among other things, by demographic change. There was a research done by Manpower Group, which reveals that organizations complain about too few applicants for their job offer and see the cause in the shortage of skilled workers. According to the Deloitte research done in 2018, the survey showed that 74% of persons born between 1981 and 1996 believe their company is more innovative when it has a culture of inclusion. Millennials see diversity as the blending of different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. Belief emphasizing the differences helps them bring value to their organization. So when companies are looking to hire and sustain a millennial workforce, diversity should be a key part of the company culture. The migration rate in Germany is increasing. About 1 in 5 citizens in Germany has a migration background. and 69% of German labor market presents migrant workers. Ratio ethnic minorities have a much higher growth rates than the white sector of the population. According to the fertility and age data in Germany, the average age of German women is 30 years when they give birth, and the fertility rates are 1.53. In comparison, the average fertility rates of migrants are 1.8. So in 2018, Germany had the third highest employment rate of women in the European Union, after Sweden with 80%. There has been a change in the gender role ratio, as in 2018, 76% of women aged 20 to 64 in Germany were in employment. It is not easy for disabled people to find a suitable workplace because they are often fraught with prejudices about their abilities. As the inclusion of people with disabilities in the labor market has increased continuously in recent years to 1.03 million, they inevitably lead to more diversity within companies. Ümit et al. State that people with disabilities belong to the world's largest minority, but they offer a high performance and show motivation. All right, let's move on. Let's have a look at the current research status. We got some scholars who support the theory that diversity leads to firm success. It's too fast. Yeah. So we got Cox et al. Who says that managing cultural diversity can provide competitive advantage. We got also Glaser et al. Who says that heterogeneous groups are a joint venture of different sources in the dimensions of knowledge, language, and interests. And People et al. Says that diversity policies generally have a positive impact on the status of people with disabilities. And most innovative companies deliberately establish heterogeneous teams to create a marketplace of ideas, recognizing that a multiplicity of points of view need to be brought to bear a problem. So companies high on innovation had done a better job. So all these scholars emphasize that heterogeneous groups facilitate innovation, and innovativeness correlates with organization success and presents the most important source of economic growth. A firm with a high level of innovative capacity has a higher propensity to innovate. So I would like to take a closer look to the conceptual model of Cox, because Cox presents systematic and objective analysis by emphasizing 6 different dimensions of business performances, which are directly impacted by management of cultural diversity. So he names, for instance, system flexibility, cost, resource acquisition, marketing, creativity, and problem solving. He states that the idea that he reviewed strongly suggests that the effective and achievement outcomes of individuals are influenced by group identities, and that organizational outcomes like turnover rates and absenteeism are ultimately affected. Further, he identifies 5 factors which supports diversity and organizational performance. Let's move on to the findings. Here I got some findings related to diversity and the business case. I got Havlet et al. Who says that diversity unlocks innovation and drives market growth. The results are based on a survey of 1,800,000 professionals, 40 case studies and focus groups. And the results are that companies are 45% likelier to report that their firm's market share grew over the previous year. I got another findings by Boston Consulting Group, They surveyed employees at more than 1,700 companies, and they came to the same result that diversity makes a difference and influencing the total revenue. I got also one critical findings by Jen et al. He says, although different forms of diversity increases different forms of conflict, but he also says that informational diversity is more likely to lead improved performance. So, and his results are based on a multi-method field of 92 work groups about diversity. The sample consisted of 545 employees in one of the top 3 firms in the household goods moving industry. So the authors also say that there's still need for further research because the actual effect of diversity policies on people with disabilities in the workplace is lacking. And also Cox et al. Says that the specific link between managing diversity and organizational competitiveness is rarely made. And additional work needs to be done, especially on the value in diversity issues. So what is my conclusion after reviewing all this literature and the findings? Yeah, the initial question was, are companies more successful when they promote diversity? Relating companies with a diverse workforce are more successful relative to non-diverse companies are mixed. Therefore, this is not a yes or no answer question. Most of the scholars found that workforce diversity, just a second, yeah, have a positive impact on organizational performance. But there is also scientific agreement that managing a diverse workforce is a challenge for managers, because the way a diverse workforce is managed is the key determinant of the relationship between diversity and performance. Some comments. The research data that I viewed was focused on organizations in the United States. Academic, international, or intercultural comparative studies are not existing yet. When assessing these empirical results, it's also important to take organizational, legal, and social context into consideration. Further, the literature presents results on organizational practices that were current at the time. It was in the early 90s. So when considering the current challenges that companies are facing, diversity could be a suitable solution. But due to the different dimensions of diversity and change of them, companies should also identify which of these diversity dimensions lead to success. For example, companies that operate on the service sector could use diversity in order to respond to an increasing number of diverse customers. But at the end, the decision for or against diversity must also consider the potential problems, because personal diversity does not automatically have positive effects on the performance. Yeah, and that's it, basically.